So if you think about like children are a clean slate. And so we are the ones who give them the taste, the flavors, the desires. We are the ones that put that in them. We are the ones who instill that in them. So we can do two things. We can either instill the vegetables and the good proteins, or we can instill the McDonald's and the fast foods. And that's what you want to really stay away from. Because at the end of the day, their health when they're 50 has to do with what happened when they were a baby and when they were growing up. And it's a real strange concept to really understand, but it's a big, big deal. I deal with parents all the time on that issue. So you really want to focus on what is the most nutritious thing I can give a child. I have a very dear friend of mine, and I have 2 kids. And the one thing he did when my son was 2 was he had given my son a hot dog. And I went ballistic. He said, but you're depriving that child. And I'm like, I'm not depriving the child of anything that the child doesn't even know. If the child doesn't know about a hot dog, then how am I depriving the child of a hot dog? Okay? And all I'm doing is trying to instill really good health habits. So that's what you want to think about when it comes to your kids. And then, of course, for yourselves, because now we're growing an adult from scratch in what we give them nutritionally, but at the same time, we are growing seniors ourselves by what we're intaking. And how do we want to live our senior life? That's the big question. So do we want to be one of those people who can't play with grandchildren and just kind of sit there just watching TV and can't really move and have no motivation or drive in life? Or do we want to be the senior that's out there doing whatever it is that we can do? That's what you want to think about too. So in both aspects, no matter how you look at it, nutrition is the most important thing. And so it's about the quality of your foods. Sometimes we tend to eat and we tend to prepare meals out of convenience and speed. And that might not be our best choices. And we'll say, oh, but don't worry because I'll do it tomorrow, or I had an apple earlier so it's not that big of a deal. But in the long run it is a big of a deal because it all ends up layering one thing on top of the other. I have something that I'm going to give you guys before you leave, and it's something I do every single year, and it's called a Live It. I do want to, though, excuse the typos that I have on there because I tried getting it quick out because I wanted you guys to have it, and then I forgot, left a couple of typos. But I apologize for the typos, but the one thing in there that I'd like you guys to leave here with is the 4 aspects of health, okay? So the 4 aspects of health, what makes a truly healthy person? It's going to be exercise and movement, sleep, rest, downtime, okay, being able to decompress, happiness, and diet. And all of those things, and when they're balanced out correctly, that's what makes a healthy person. Okay? So now from your own aspects, you probably have come from some very challenging situations, but now it seems to me that this is the place that's going to move you to the next phase, which could be a wonderful phase of your life. So in all of that said, you need to also make plans for yourselves. And I think everybody in this world needs to set goals for themselves. I think that's the best thing you can ever do. And so a goal could be how you want to live your day to day. I had a very dear friend of mine, and she's a brilliant woman, and she said, you know what, take a notebook and write out your perfect day. What do you want that perfect day to look like? And that's real important. Maybe your perfect day, maybe tomorrow is not going to be that day that you wrote out on paper, but if you've written it out on paper, every single day, an aspect of that day is going to start to appear in your day-to-day. And maybe a month from now or a year from now, all of a sudden you'll sit there and go, oh my God, I'm having my perfect day from what I wrote down. And that's a big deal because that's what makes us feel great. And in life, the people that succeed are the people that are really passionate about what it is that they do and about their day and about their family and their kids. And that's what you want to create in your own world, right? And how that correlates with food is huge. And it sounds a little strange, but food has an enormous amount of power in how we feel. Okay? Sugar gives us a little bit of a lift in our day. We don't realize it, it's very unconscious. When we have PMS, we crave sugar and flour. We crave sugar and flour because unconsciously in our brain, it makes us feel calm. And PMS, we get a little bit anxious, right? So we have all of this huge craving for whatever it is. We all have our own individual things, right? But we crave it, whatever it is, and then we take it and we go, ooh, okay, I feel a little bit better now, okay? So that correlation between our psyche and how we feel and what we ate happens with everything. And that's very, very important to understand. So you want to really think about your food choices. So what is the ultimate foods? Okay? And nothing has to be expensive. Everything can be done completely on a budget. There's actually this wonderful chef, and his name is Jamie Oliver. And Jamie Oliver took a family of 4 that lived on fast food. And he took their lunch one day, and he told the dad, he goes, go out and get lunch at your favorite fast food restaurant, and I'm going to prepare food, and we're going to compare the bills. And he actually saved them $5 and gave them a wonderfully healthy meal, as opposed to the junk that they got from the fast food restaurants. So you can't always think that that might be your good choices. When it comes to foods, there's something that's really important. Fresh foods, fresh raw foods, so an apple is born with vitamins, minerals, and enzymes. And those enzymes are like a little computer code that tell our body how to break down that food, okay? So on that note, those enzymes are the things that say, break it down, don't store it as fat, use it for energy, etc., etc., okay? But when we eat foods that are processed or man-made, that computer code no longer exists. So our body all of a sudden ingests it and says, I don't know what to do with this, so I'm going to store it as fat. Or I'm going to make the person feel sleepy so I can break it down, because it seems to be really hard to break down. So I'll make them feel sleepy, I'll break it down, and then I'll store it as fat. And that's not necessarily what we want. Have you ever felt that way from foods before? Sometimes, yeah? So we don't want that. We want food should be something that kind of empowers us. And you have to really listen to how your body is being receptive to the food, and it'll make you understand a little bit more about what the food does for you. We all have different feelings of food, okay? So I could eat pizza and feel energized, and someone else could feel pizza and feel flushed, okay? It all depends on what else you ate that day. But you as an individual, I want you guys to leave here doing a couple things. If any food makes you feel gassy or bloated, you probably have a food allergy to it. So you need to stop eating that food. And it could be it could be broccoli, it could be something really healthy, or it could be something really junky. You're the only one who's going to figure that out, okay? And if you have an intolerance to that particular food, it's always going to get stored as fat. Even if the food label says 0 grams of fat, okay? That happens to be this really horrible thing, I think, are the food labels. Because we sit there, we look at the food label and go, oh, it's only got 200 calories, it's got 0 grams of fat. But what the food label says and what your body does with it are 2 completely different things. Okay? So at the end of the day, you're much better off sticking to very fresh ingredients. Okay? So when we're looking at fruits and vegetables, for example, raw, they come with all of these wonderful vitamins and minerals. All of these enzymes. Cooked, they still carry some of those vitamins and minerals. Some of the enzymes actually die off. And overcooked, a lot of the stuff kind of dies off. So we always want to keep it more on the undercooked side or raw. And at the same time, if we could create every single meal we have and snack that encompasses just a little bit of raw fruits and vegetables, that would help us then digest the rest of our foods also. So kind of keep that in your mind. Like with kids, my kids always have, and I'm not a stickler that it has to be a vegetable. They have to have a protein, some kind of a protein. So protein would be chicken, meat, nuts, beans, eggs, fish, absolutely, yes. Okay, that's where your protein comes from. And then they have to choose a fruit or a vegetable. I just want them to have something fresh next to their meal. Okay? And I'm not picky about it. I have some friends of mine that are parents and are like, no, you have to have vegetables. No, I just want them to have something fresh next to it. Whatever their choice is, great. Avocados are the all-time best fruit to have.
I can't make myself eat avocado. I can't. I eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, and I eat a lot of boiled food because I change my eating habit too. So I know what you're saying is true. But and after I changed my eating habit, I started feeling better and stuff. So, but I can't get myself to eat avocados. What do I?
There's 2 kinds of avocados. There's like that big Miami avocado, which is more of a watery avocado. Then there's these little avocados that have like little bumpy skin, and they call them Hass avocados. And this is more of an oil-based avocado. Have you tried that one?
It was, I think, the one.
That's probably the big one.
The big one.
Yeah, like the big one. I'm not that keen on that taste. I never have been. I'll salt it up and maybe mix it up like a guacamole with like tomatoes and things like that. But it's never been like the Hass ones, the little ones, are the really good ones. Try it. You know? And as with any fruit or vegetable, it's like a good recipe. You have to try it different ways. So maybe you take a slice and you go, I don't like it. Then you take a slice and you put a little bit of salt on it and you go, okay, that tastes better. Or maybe you mix it up with a bunch of, chopped up onions and garlic and other things to kind of give it flavor, and then all of a sudden go, oh wow, that's pretty good. I'll also take the avocado and I'll smash it down and I will mix it with chicken, and it's basically like a chicken salad, and I stick it in a wrap and I give it to my kids as a snack. And that might be a way for you to get avocado. So you just gotta play with the flavorings of it. Have you done smoothies?
Somewhere.
Okay.
I guess it's because I don't like that thick, rich flavor, but I do a lot of water. I stopped drinking a lot of sodas.
Good. Good. Yeah, sodas are the sort. They just,
I don't know about that. I want them soda have, somebody told me that soda have yeast in it, do it?
Sodas have yeast?
Somebody told me that.
Well, yeast thrives on sugar, okay? And sodas have so much sugar that if you have yeast in your system, it's only going to feed it.
That's right.
Yes. Yes. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, when it comes to food, if I were an investor, right, and you were going to give me money to invest, would you give me money knowing that I wasn't going to make any money for you? Right? It's kind of silly. Okay? So I want you to think about food that way. Food needs to give you nutrition. And if it's not going to give you nutrition, then you got to think again before you eat it. Right? So a soda has absolutely no benefits to your body whatsoever. So it's one thing if, I don't know, you're at a party, you're outside, there's no water in sight, and you really need something to drink, so you said, okay, I'm going to take a little bit of Sprite because I just kind of need a little something. But it's another to use that as a main staple of your beverages because it doesn't really provide your body anything. And then at the same time, too, because sodas are not naturally bubbly. So there's an actual chemical that makes it bubbly. And that chemical, unfortunately, breaks down our bone tissue. And with time, leads to osteoporosis. Okay, so we don't want to break down our bones. So it's not, again, it doesn't go back to any benefits. There was a whole article one time that came out that, when your car battery, when it gets corroded and you can't start the car, all you need to do is take a Coke and pour it on there and it eats up the corrosion. Yeah, it eats up the corrosion on a car battery. The same as if you have a toilet bowl that's like stained in the inside, you can pour Coke and it'll clean all that up for you. So now think about what it does to your body. It's not a very positive thing. I'm really glad that I was so boring that I could put her to sleep. Anytime. Just all like chill. Just all sweet.